Hi there. This short video is going to provide you with some revision suggestions which you can use over the next 12 weeks in the lead up to your GCSE pre-exams. Over the next 5 minutes or so within this video, I'm going to give you some tips on the ways we can revise and the most effective ways and what will contribute towards you being successful. I'm also going to provide you with some tips in how I feel guide you towards success and what you need over the next 12 weeks in terms of ensuring that you stay consistent towards your goal. And then finally, I'm going to give you some week plans in terms of what you can do, how you could structure your revision in terms of time. We're going to look at the ways in which we can revise, and as you can see, we can read things, we can hear things, we can see things, we can talk about things, we can do things, but the bottom point there, 90% of what we do, comes together. So the first slide we're going to look at is the various ways we can revise, and research shows that we remember 20% of what we read, 30% of what we hear, 40% of what we see, 50% of what we say, 60% of what we do, and then finally, collectively together, if we bring all these different strategies together, we remember 90% of what we're doing. Now, everybody's got a different learning style. It's very important that you understand which style you prefer to use and how you like to revise. But it's very important that you use various techniques which will allow us to understand as much as possible. It's very important at this stage as well, and I often refer to this within my teaching classroom, the importance of recycling information. So recycling what you are looking at. It's very unlikely within a lesson of 40 to 50 to 60 minutes that you'll remember everything that goes on within that classroom. So it's very important that you revisit it, you revisit it again, and the idea being that you send the information which is stored in the short-term memory into the long-term memory, which is the hippocampus within the brain, which will then allow you then to recall the information in the exams. So like I say, this slide is a very important slide, and I'm sure many students can relate to this in terms of they may feel that reading is a really successful tool for them. Personally, I think reading is a fantastic tool. I think it's the kind of foundations of developing your knowledge, but like I said earlier, I think it's important we use various techniques to try and implement the knowledge what you need for your exam. Now, a little bit more on this section here. I do think it's important to understand once you've got that knowledge, you need to do something with it, and whether that's doing a mind map, whether it's creating something in terms of word scrabble. We've done only connect games, but one of the biggest tools, and you've got access to these, are examination questions. And answering examination questions, look at the mark scheme, answer it, or answer it without the mark scheme, then refer back to it, or do it, mark your own work, ask a parent, carer, friend, myself to mark your work for you. So it's very important that once you've got that knowledge within your brain, you then do something with it, and the best style of doing that is exam questions. Moving on from the way we revise, it's very important that in order to be successful, I feel that you need 3 key elements towards getting you to be successful. The first one being motivation. You've got to want to be successful in any subject which you are revising for, and that is the foundation of your development and your progress. We know about intrinsic motivation, doing it for the pride because you're doing it for yourself, and hopefully there's a little bit of extrinsic motivation in there, meaning that you want to get that grade which you are predicted or you're striving for. The second one is consistency, and ensuring that you stay to your goal. Consistency in terms of it's a key part of being successful, consistent, because sometimes you may slightly fall off track but it's very important that you get yourself back in line of where you want and you refocus your mind towards the goal you are trying to get to. And the final one, I think, kind of sums this up and brings things together, and that is you've got to be disciplined. And I really believe in this. The gentleman in front of us is going on to be one of the greatest sportsmen ever to come out of Britain, and for a man who started boxing at 18, in 4 years to become an Olympic gold medalist, and then in a very, very short space of time, I think it was 16 fights, to become a world champion, Anthony Joshua has shown all three of these key elements. He's been motivated, he's wanted to get there, he's been consistent. But one thing I do want to say is there will be times when Anthony Joshua will not have been motivated. There will have been times when his alarm clock will have gone off at 5 o'clock in the morning to do his road work, and he'll have wanted to turn that alarm off. But what he has done, he's been disciplined. He's been consistent. He's refocused his mind towards what he wants, his goal, and that is the key. So you're not always going to be motivated, and that's when you've got to be disciplined. And if you are that, you will stay consistent. So moving on, I want to look at 4 different models. With your GCSEs fast approaching, and you've got many subjects which you need to revise from, I'm just going to give you some suggested weekly revision plans which may support you and guide you towards being more successful in your exams. Now, as you know, there are 7 areas of the GCSE spec, and you need to consider those 7 areas. Use your pixel tracker to highlight where your strengths and weaknesses are, and then plan your revision accordingly. Now, the first model here is for students who GCSE is a real priority, potentially going on to do A-level, then potentially going on to do a degree with aspirations to becoming maybe something like a teacher, a physio, something related to sport. And sport is a real key area of their life. And I would suggest, if you are that sort of student, then Model 1 may be a suggestion for you. Now, as you can see here in front of you, this applies to all of it. Each little revision section here is the students working. So Tuesday morning there, as I've just put a little dot on, is Tuesday intervention, as is the Friday one. So Tuesday and Friday intervention, and then the students have an additional lesson on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, which is also intervention or support. Now, the lesson on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, I know is an hour, but I've just, as I've put here, revision time based on 30 minutes, because each session they'll be given 30 minutes individual revision time. So as you can see, this is a 4-hour model, work on a 4-hour revision, and you'll obviously have your additional 2 lessons a week as well. So this is for a student who is very, very passionate towards their PE, and like I say, wanting to go and do A-level, possibly a degree, and sport being their preferred, their dream occupation. Now, moving on to the final stage of this video, I'm now going to show you some models which you could apply to your revision. Now, again, these are only suggested models, and it's very important that you use the timetable which you feel first will support you the most. Now, Model 1 is, for me, the student who is wanting to go on to do A-level PE or doing further sport at college, in terms of whether it's a BTEC or it's A-level, and then going on to a degree level. And I would suggest this is somebody where PE is a high priority for them. Somebody who's potentially wanting to go on to become a teacher, a physio, a coach, but sport is going to be a big part of their future, and they've got a great passion for it, and they really want to try and hit that target grade or get past it. So if you look at the layout of this model, okay, each revision slot is 30 minutes long. Now, again, that might not suit your research suggest, but chunking revision works better. Again, it's just a suggested length of time. I certainly wouldn't go any longer than 30 minutes, but I would certainly try and look to the plan which suits you. So as you can see here, there are 4 hours worth of revision if you're doing 30 minutes. Now, as you can see here again, where the students are in lessons, or where you are in lessons, we've got Tuesday morning intervention, we've also got Friday morning intervention, and you've got Tuesday or the Wednesday intervention lesson, which you've now got. That then leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 revision slots within that week, which is in your own time. Now, again, at this point, and you will know this from looking at your exercise books, there are 7 parts to the GCSE course. Using your pixel tracker, how I would, again, suggested way of doing this would be to each revision section to break down into a section of the course, and then again, using your pixel tracker, look at where your areas of development need to be. So again, like I say, that is for somebody whose PE is a high priority. The second model, okay, slightly lower in terms of hours, 3.5 hours. Still lots of revision time within that. I've just broken it down in terms of 3 sessions on an evening, still Tuesday and Friday intervention, and then a Sunday morning revision time as well. I think it's important at this stage as well to remember that effective revision doesn't just mean that we're working for 30 minutes flat out. It might be 2 chunks of 15 minutes looking at information, having a break, then going back to it. But I would suggest little small chunks of revision is more effective than 30 minutes flat out, or 40 minutes, 50 minutes flat out, where you purely focus on one area. So chunk it up. You might do 3 little sections of 10 within that day, or within that hour of choice. Again, looking at it's 3.5 hours worth of revision over a week. Again, you've got the intervention sessions in there on a Tuesday and Friday. Then you've got your classroom intervention, and you've got some time over the weekend and 2 over the evening. Again, chunking is very important for this, but like I said on previous slide, this is for somebody who PE is a high priority. So this could be a model for you. And moving on to model 3, again, this is for students who obviously PE is still a priority, but obviously I appreciate that there are subjects as well which you may have as a higher priority. And as you can see there, Saturday and Sunday is a key revision time, still coming to intervention here, okay, and then they've got 2 evening sessions as well. And the third one, again, time's slightly decreased, still 3 hours, okay, again, the intervention session there, and the classroom lesson there, so you've roughly got an hour, and then you've got some on a weekend, and then some on an evening, then you've again 2.5 hours revision, okay, where students are working again Tuesday morning intervention, and Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, or wherever you prefer to do it, then 2 evening sessions. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. Like I say, the suggested methods, the 4 models, just give you a little bit of structure, but I certainly believe in small chunking of information. If you're going to do a 30-minute session in terms of revision, then be mindful about how you're actually revising that information, how you're actually going to put that information into your mind and send it into that hippocampus, which is where I want it in the SAT long-term memory. So hope you found it useful, and thank you for listening. One, I guess a 2.5 hour one, so this may be a little bit more supportive towards your needs. Again, these are only suggestions. You've got to consider, you've got all the other subjects as well to consider, but this may be an easy way of structuring or planning your revision, particularly in the PE subject. Okay, thank you. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, please get in contact.